A former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver disrespected Lamar Jackson. We talk about that. Kyle Van Noy calling out haters on social media and so much more coming up on this bonus edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here on this bonus edition of the show, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Free and available for you, all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also in audio form, where you can follow along and subscribe over there as well. We're a 5-day-a-week plus more daily Ravens podcasts, or weekday episodes come out every Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. But we also have bonus episodes like this one. We go live after every single Ravens game, every piece of Ravens big news. If you want daily Ravens coverage, be sure to keep it locked in here on Locked On Ravens. Today's edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. We are back here again. The Ravens defeat the Houston Texans 31-2 on Christmas Day. It was a very great Christmas and holiday gift the Ravens gave us, and now they control their own AFC North destiny. Big Week 18 game coming up next week, so it's a stress-free Sunday for everybody tomorrow in Ravens land, and then we get playoffs, so we're getting close. We're getting really close, and it's crazy because really, it feels like just yesterday we were talking about week one, leading up to the season, going through OTAs, but biggest part of the year starts obviously after the new year, and that's going to be really exciting. But on today's show, we're going to be talking about a former Ravens wide receiver disrespecting Lamar Jackson. He gave Lamar some props, but then talked about his game like he hadn't been watching Lamar for the entire season. So we'll talk about that. Then Kyle Van Noy took to social media, called out his haters and the Ravens haters, and a very long message. So I want to talk about that as well and what Van Noy had to say. And then I think Baltimore's better positioned this year than they were last year. This is a conversation we're going to have a couple of times over the course of the next couple of weeks, but I wanted to start it off today. So a lot to dive into on the show. Let's get into the former Ravens wide receiver and TJ Houshmandzadeh disrespecting Lamar Jackson. Now, again, TJ gave Lamar praise so long story short, he went on Fox, he went on the show with Paul Pierce and Joy Taylor, Keyshawn Johnson, and that is called Speak. So he went on Speak and talked with those guys about Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. And Micah Parsons, if you didn't catch what Micah Parsons had to say, he called Joe Burrow the best quarterback in the NFL. Now, TJ Houshmandzadeh, he's not only a former Ravens wide receiver, he's a former Bengals wide receiver. And he ended up saying, yeah, I do agree with Micah. And talked about how, as a wide receiver, he would rather have number 9 throwing him the football. And look, I don't have a problem if you prefer Lamar Jackson or prefer Joe Burrow, prefer Josh Allen, whatever it is, prefer Patrick Mahomes, all that. It's fine. I mean, personally, I think Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the league this season. I don't really think it's particularly close, but people are entitled to their opinions. The disrespectful part in this whole entire thing, and there are actually two parts of it. Well, I guess kind of more so just one, but the big one was that he said, quote, he's not scrambling to run, he's scrambling to throw, implying that Lamar Jackson scrambles to run. And Joe Burrow, he scrambles to throw. So that means as a wide receiver, you want to catch the ball from Joe Burrow. Has TJ not been watching the games? I mean, again, I don't know if he has. I don't know if he hasn't. But again, TJ is implying here that, since Joe is a throwing guy and, he scrambles out, rolls out in the pocket, and he's looking to throw eyes downfield, that's the guy that he wants to catch passes from. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson both do that too. I mean, look, I understand that Josh and Lamar are, they have that running ability to their game as quarterbacks, right? That's a big part of what they do. But that doesn't mean that for the both of them, they just only look to run. I mean, for Lamar Jackson, this is a player that has been looking down the field to throw the ball. He's been letting routes be extended, and to say, oh, well, I want Joe Burrow because he looks to throw when he scrambles instead of looking to run, and implying the other two guys like just only look to run the football. Lamar's made it very clear that he's wanted to let routes develop this season. And his mom literally cussed him out for not taking rushing lanes. He made it clear that he wanted to take more rushing lanes. Again, I get those guys have that rushing ability, but like, what are we doing here? Like, Joe also has that mobility aspect to him, obviously not to the level that Lamar and Josh Allen do, but all three of these guys can throw the football. And with the way that Lamar is throwing that ball this season, look, Joe Burrow's having an incredible season, right? Incredible. All three of these guys are. And look, TJ made sure to say that Lamar is playing the best football we've ever seen him play. Josh Allen has been great. And if you want Joe Burrow throwing you the football if you're a wide receiver, hey, I don't blame you. Joe's a really good player, heck of a player. But if you're saying, oh, as a wide receiver, that conversation with the whole Greg Roman offense, if we want to even go there and kind of extend the conversation outward a little bit, if we want to talk about the way that wide receivers maybe perceived Baltimore back during the Greg Roman days with the way the offense was structured, I'll take it back to a moment. If you're an everydayer and you've been listening to me here on Locked on Ravens for years, you've heard me tell the story of when Juju Smith-Schuster, he was choosing between the Chiefs, the Steelers, the Ravens. This is when he ended up re-signing with the Steelers on a one-year deal. He went on Michael Irvin's podcast and talked about how, oh, well, I love Lamar, but that offense, that was it, where we had the conversation. If you're a wide receiver and you're trying to rebuild your value in a Greg Roman passing offense that is dominated by running backs and tight ends, is that the best place to do that? And that was a real conversation. It had nothing to do with Lamar and the way that he played the game. It was more so about the offense. That conversation is long gone now. I know there was the issues with Deontay Johnson and the role and whatnot, and we don't really know the whole behind-the-scenes story there with Deontay and kind of why the role was what it was. But wide receivers, look, Zay Flowers is flourishing. Rashad Bateman is flourishing. This is not one wide receiver now gets 8 targets and the rest of the guys get 2. Sometimes game flow dictates that way, and that's fine, but Lamar's made it a point to spread the ball around, and it's that thing about him floating in the pocket, right? Lamar floats in the pocket, and he looks to deliver, lets those routes develop like we talked about. He doesn't just automatically take off and is on first read, boom, run, or, there's pressure on me. Let's get out and let's go pick up this first down with my legs. That's not Lamar's mindset. And, Lamar has evolved over the course of his career. Where sure, maybe some plays, that has been the mindset. But we're so far past that. This is year 7. So, yes, TJ's correct in the fact that Lamar's playing the best football we've ever seen him play. That's true. That part, that's great to hear that TJ feels that way. But it just feels like some people still, whether it's the games aren't being watched or it's just a narrative that's in the head, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to put words in TJ's mouth here. I'm just going to go based off of what he said, is that, again, he believes Joe Burrow is not scrambling to run, he's scrambling to throw, which implies that the other two scramble to run, not throw the ball. When in reality, if you're a wide receiver, I'd be fine playing with any of those 3 guys. If you have a preference, that's fine, but don't discount Lamar and Josh for that matter too. If we want to bring Josh back in the conversation, don't discount those 2 guys because they have running aspects of their game that you feel like they scramble to run, not throw. Guys do that. Lamar does that. Josh Allen does that, sure. But especially in Lamar's case here, because obviously here on Locked on Ravens, we know a thing or two about Lamar Jackson, just a thing or two. A big conversation point, a huge conversation point has been Lamar not taking off in clear rushing lanes when he rolls out in the pocket. And, what TJ is implying here is quite the opposite of that whole situation. So coming up in the second part of the show, we'll talk about Kyle Van Noy calling out the media haters on social media. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on Locked on Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Gametime. I love going to live events during the holidays, and I look forward to making new memories every holiday season. Gametime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Gametime has new features called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets for your live events even easier. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So for this Ravens and Browns game coming up in Week 18, if you want a place to look for seats, go to Gametime. They have super deals and other tiers of deals. Plus, the app has so many great features like Gametime Picks, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Gametime ticket coverage, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, spelled LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. We're back with our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this bonus edition of the show. Appreciate everybody again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms, and we are here for you and anybody else who you know who wants daily Ravens coverage. So tell a friend, tell a family member that they can watch us in video form. They can listen to us in audio form. It's the same show, both audio and video, because social media, obviously it's the age of social media promotion, but word of mouth still very, very effective. So we're building up great communities, video form, audio form, social media, subtext, and I can't thank everybody enough for their support. Let's talk about Kyle Van Noy calling out the haters on social media right in the morning here. Yesterday on Friday, he put out a tweet on Twitter about just the season, how it's gone, and I guess reflecting a little bit. So we'll do some reflecting with Kyle Van Noy here today. He said, quote, lots of things have been said over the past year/season. Defense stinks, no pass rush, Mark, other players washed, blah, blah, blah. Even starting 0-2 doesn't matter. And then he hosts a podcast with Joe McCoy. He says, Joe McCoy and myself told everybody, keep the faith in the team. We stuck together, and we will keep climbing together. Can't wait till next week. We are one game away from being the Kings of the North and getting a home playoff game. He said, can't wait for the McCoy and Van Noy next episode. LFG. It is kind of crazy to look back on how this season has gone, and this segment will go hand in hand with our final part of the show too. But there were a lot of questions about this team, and there still are. I'm not saying the Ravens are now a perfect team, but they start 0-2. They lose to Kansas City, which, again, I think that game probably could have gone either way. And if, the Ravens win or if they lose, obviously a win feels great, but a loss, you're like, yeah, okay, defending champs stings because you want to beat that team, but okay, that's a really good football team. The Raiders game, that raised a lot of questions. You start 0-2. We know the history behind 0-2 teams and missing the postseason, which still probably is going to ring true for a lot of other teams this season as well. But you have a team in Baltimore that, Gardner Minshew comes into your home stadium and beats you in your home opener. And it was a matter of, defensive breakdowns, offense stalling out, mistakes, offensive line, like all these question marks we've been talking about all year. And in those moments, there can be, even for the players, for the coaches, for the organization, there can be moments of questioning. Like, hey, what's going on here? Why is this the way things are going? But in those moments, you have to believe in one another. That really is what it comes down to. Because if you start questioning too much, like, yes, of course, there are going to be questions in organizations every year, every team about, man, we really have to fix this. How can we fix this? What can we do here? But if you start questioning your teammates, or if you start questioning your coaches, or if the coaches start questioning the players, that can lead to a lot of ugly stuff. And what Kyle Van Noy essentially is saying is that the team stuck together through all of that. And they're going to keep climbing with all of that in mind. Yeah, I mean, look, early in the season, Mark Andrews was getting a lot of flack. The production wasn't there, seemingly wasn't getting open. Obviously, Isaiah Likely had a great start to the season, and there were a lot of comments about, oh, well, Mark Andrews, is that a guy you maybe trade? Like, is this Isaiah Likely surpassing him? And I had kind of said that, look, Mark is a guy that's really good, and while it's been a rough start to the year, I'm still trusting Mark Andrews to bounce back, and that's exactly what happened. I said the same thing about Justin Tucker, too. That one obviously didn't age as well, And I guess now it kind of is since the bye week, at least it has. Obviously, before the bye week, it was a disaster with Justin Tucker. But again, it's always a situation with teams where you have to play a delicate balance because there's so many things that go into whether it's moving on from a struggling player, benching somebody, firing a coach, whatever it may be. You have to have a balance between giving guys chances and making the right move for your organization. And so the Ravens have made tough decisions this season with, for example, benching a Marcus Williams, benching a Trenton Simpson, cutting an Eddie Jackson. Like those are moves that the Ravens made with the team's best interest in mind, which is what you have to do. You have to separate, for example, Marcus Williams. There are a lot of teams that invest a lot of money in players, whether it's a star player, up-and-coming player, whatever it may be. And that guy doesn't perform up to expectation, and teams just play that guy until they can get rid of him because, well, they spent them. If their mindset is we spent the money anyway, we might as well play the guy. That's the sunken cost fallacy, where you've already spent the money. It's not working out, but you already spent the money, so you might as well just get your money's worth, I guess, right? For the Ravens, benching a guy that you paid $70 million only a couple seasons ago is pretty unheard of. Like, just to make a guy like that a healthy scratch, it happens. It has happened before, but that is a rarity. And so that ends up happening, and you have guys like Ardarius Washington step up. And our big conversation early in the season was the pass offense for Baltimore, historic. Rushing offense for Baltimore, historic. Rush defense for Baltimore, incredible. It was just about getting that pass defense up to par, up to snuff with the rest of the units. And that has happened. And now Baltimore is playing like one of the best teams in the league. So I'm really excited to see what this team does moving forward. And Kyle Van Noy just seems hyped up. And he's a guy playing with a chip on his shoulder for sure. Obviously was on the couch last season. Early in the year, the Ravens scooped him up, had a great year. He now has 11.5 sacks on a $3.6 million cap hit, which is such great value for Baltimore. And Van Noy is under contract for one more season with the Ravens, so more value to be had for Baltimore here. But yeah, it's cool to kind of see Kyle Van Noy type out his thoughts. He's definitely open about his thoughts, which I like as well. Obviously has the podcast with Gerald McCoy, but, goes on shows and shares his thoughts, and he's very open about how he's feeling about stuff. So that's a really cool thing to see with Kyle Van Noy, because no organization, or I shouldn't say no organization, there are some organizations I'm sure this happens to. We literally saw it with the Jets in Madden ratings. But the Ravens are an organization that don't let outside noise get to them. They will do their thing. They don't care what you have to say. They're going to do things their way. They're not going to let the outside influence impact them. And so the moves that they've made, the adjustments they've made, hopefully it comes to fruition in the playoffs. They're able to make a deep playoff run. But in my opinion, Kyle Van Noy kind of speaks for everybody here. That, one game away from Kings of the North, hopefully a long playoff run on the horizon. This Baltimore Ravens team right now is playing very, very, very good football. Coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about why Baltimore is better positioned, in my opinion, to make a Super Bowl run than last year, despite how dominant they were in the regular season. So be sure to stay tuned. A lot to get to on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, and so much more. They have the Great American Story and a lot of other courses as well. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There is no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostreicher still talking with you here on this bonus edition of the show. As always, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, video form and audio form. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. We had our first episode that hit over 30,000 views, now almost 40,000 on YouTube, and we're coming up on a lot of different milestones as well. We're almost at 10,500 here already on YouTube, and in audio form, our community grows every single day, and it's really cool to see that audio community growth. We started up in audio form in 2019, and then obviously we added on video form in 2021. So a lot of really cool stuff coming your way, obviously, for the postseason, hopefully the long postseason run that Baltimore has. And obviously, as we move into the offseason, we're 5 days a week, all year round, season, offseason, everywhere, everything on Locked On Ravens. Now, I think Baltimore is better positioned for a playoff run this time around as opposed to last season. And you might be thinking, Kevin, you do know the Ravens were the most dominant regular season team last year. They set all these records. They were so dominant. The defense was historic. Yeah, I hear you. I got you. Most definitely. But I just feel like the way that Baltimore is winning those games, it was really fun. You know, they were blowing out teams by 40 every other week and just dominating left and right. But they didn't face a lot of adversity, in my opinion. There were a couple of games, adversity-wise, that you can certainly say, yeah, they had that Rams game, right? That was a back-and-forth one. They had a couple of others, too. Suffered some tough losses. But I feel like this season, Baltimore's been able to come from behind for wins a lot more often. Not that they couldn't before, but I'm just saying. They've done that a lot this year. Both Cincinnati games, which is huge. They did overcome some tough losses. Right now, it feels like they're peaking at the right time. And that stuff is really, really important, especially when it comes down to the postseason, where it really is a whole new season. It really is. It's different. I chop it up into 4 separate seasons. It's before the bye week, after the bye week, playoffs, and then Super Bowl. And hopefully the Ravens will be able to play in all 4 seasons this year. Right now we're on 2. They're getting ready for season number 3. But it is a season within a season. Where we saw last year, Baltimore faced some adversity against Kansas City in that AFC Championship game early. They got punched in the mouth. They punched back. They got punched in the mouth again. And they didn't really know how to respond, it felt like. Coaches, players, everybody didn't feel like they knew how to respond. This time around, I feel like the Ravens will be better able to handle those punches because they have handled more. I think they've handled them more effectively this season. So sometimes you use the regular season to find your weaknesses. You use the regular season to kind of go about your business and see what you need to improve on. Maybe that comes with an improvement to your roster. Maybe that comes with just different habits or scheme changes, whatever it may be. But guys like Zach Orr, guys like Ardarius Washington, Nate Wiggins, some of these guys who have really stepped up and made impacts as unsung heroes this year alongside your stars. I mean, Rashad Bateman, obviously, right? I could go on and on and on about how many unsung heroes the Ravens have this season. It's not just limited to those guys. But this team, to me, has a real shot. And sometimes it didn't feel that way, kind of like what we were talking about with Kyle Van Noy and what he had to say. Some of those losses were super demoralizing, or, you know, they were super frustrating in a lot of different ways. And while the Ravens, if they go back to what they were playing like with mistakes and just, you know, poor execution, they're probably going to be 1 and done or 2 and done in the playoffs. But if they keep playing the way that they are right now, I find it really hard to find a team that would actually go out there and beat them in a full 60-minute game, because we've talked about units struggling for Baltimore all season, where, you know, special teams will struggle, but then the offense and defense are good enough so they win. Or the defense and special teams struggle, but the offense is so historic it doesn't matter. Or offense can't get it going, but the defense is able to put it together for a game, and that's great. That Houston game was the most complete one we have seen out of this Ravens team. I was super, super, super impressed by it. And that's the type of stuff that you want to see. I think it was an amazing stepping stone for them. That's what this has been post-bye. Just stepping stone after stepping stone. And playoff momentum, getting there and being on this hot streak going in, that's not the be-all, end-all. As I've talked about, if you've listened to me over the past week, or just if you're an everydayer in general, I've mentioned this multiple times over the years. The Ravens in 2012, they went 1-3 entering the postseason. They had a terrible end of their year, no momentum, and then they just got hot at the right time, and they went on a heater. So while I believe Baltimore is peaking at the right time during the regular season, it doesn't really matter if you can't get the job done in the playoffs, because the example I'll use, and I've been using this all week too, is we don't talk about that 2023 regular season anymore because of how disappointing the playoff end was. Here in Baltimore, yes, regular season is important, but it's not important whatsoever when it comes to the playoffs. The Ravens are a good regular season team. We all know that. They're a consistent regular season team. We all know that. but in the postseason, post Super Bowl, post 2012, 2013, it's been rough to find consistent playoff success for them. So hopefully this can be the start of a trend and they can go to a Super Bowl and win it, because Lamar Jackson, he's playing all-time football right now for him. And a Super Bowl would mean so much to him, not just for him personally, but I mean, he wants to win for his team, for his coaches, for his city, and so many other reasons as well. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. On the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. And I'll see you right back here tomorrow with another bonus episode on Locked On Ravens.